Hello and welcome to Adelaide CBD.
Hello, Finn.
Hello, Ronald.
So, glad to see you're still alive after the 46.6 degrees temperatures last week.
It was pretty hot in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Record temperatures.
Bloody hot. Bloody hot.
It's almost as if the climate's getting hotter.
Yeah, weird that. I mean, we've only, increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by over 40%. I guess these things just happen when you change your atmosphere.
Someone should do something about it.
Yeah, wonder who.
You know, it was so hot, I think you could probably have fried an egg on a car bonnet.
Did you?
I tried. Do you want to see?
Well, yeah, sure.
So here we go.
Right, there you are.
One egg,
One egg.
one car bonnet.
Mm-hmm. One googie. Okay.
What will happen?
Is it going to fry? I bet it does. It goes.
It was hot, man.
And it is.
It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's.
Now my hands are really hurting. My hands are really hurting.
Yeah, that's not frying, Finn.
What, my hand or the...
Oh.
Hey!
There it goes.
That ended well.
Oh, poor chickie. Wow.
So it wasn't hot enough to fry an egg on my car bonnet, which was a shame. So I tried again. I left a black frying pan in the mid-afternoon sun for an hour.
Yep.
Then I cracked an egg into it and left it for an hour. And that's what it looked like.
Right. Okay. So no cooking even on a black fry pan. So as the son of a Dutch chef, I happen to know you need 70 degrees to make your egg whites turn white. So clearly it didn't reach that temperature.
So the pan didn't reach that temperature.
Yeah, the pan didn't reach.
So that probably means solar panels didn't get to that temperature.
You would think so, because solar panels, they look dark, but they also wick away some of that energy by transforming it into electricity. So apparently 65 degrees is about what they get to.
Okay.
On a really hot day.
So that's 40 degrees over the 25 perfect panel temperature, so they'll lose about 20% of their efficiency.
Yeah, or a bit less, 40%, 16%.
Cool.
For a typical panel.
So the other thing that happened on the hottest day ever in Adelaide
What is that?
was I kept my house nice and cool. So this is Solar Analytics, my favourite solar monitoring package on my house. So
Looks very 60s.
yellow is solar,
Right.
blue is the battery discharging, and purple is house consumption.
Right.
So first thing to note is that to keep my house cool, I've got 2 split air conditioners. I've got, as you've mentioned, a house made of straw, so it's quite thermally efficient.
Yeah.
But despite all that, I used 40 kilowatt hours for 24 hours.
Yeah. Ow.
But the good news is it was all powered from solar and battery.
Yeah, so no grid power.
Didn't touch the grid in those 24 hours. To be fair, the battery ran out at 1 o'clock the next morning. So I did start to use grid electricity then. So what are the headline figures? So yeah, call it 40 kilowatt hours of energy consumption. We generated 6 kilowatt solar system, Tindo solar panels, solar bridge, retro, micro inverters generated 34.8, call it 35 kilowatt hours. Self-consumed directly, if I didn't have a battery, 22 kilowatt hours of solar.
Right.
So that was, if I only had solar, I would have saved $11.
Right. And with a battery?
I would have saved an extra $3.99.
Yeah, so you can see where the money is.
The money's in the solar. The $7,000 solar system saved me $11. The $15,500 battery saved me $3.99. And that's on an extreme day where I consumed 130% of my battery capacity.
130, yeah, that's rare.
Because it was charged from the day before, and then it charged during the day. On a typical day, I self-consume about an extra 5 kilowatt hours. So that's about $1. Oh, we've gone too far. Hang on.
Yeah, that one's much prettier.
So what do you make of that, Ronald?
Well, first off, if you want to save money, you get your solar and you don't worry about getting a battery. So you said it was $15,000 battery?
Well, it's Powerwall 2, Tesla Powerwall 2. Cost to install at the moment, about 15,500.
Mm-hmm. And with the South Australian subsidy, in South Australia only, I was told by the Tesla pop-up stand, $9,300 fully installed. So if you can trust someone with Tesla written on their shirt, that's what it is.
So if you're going to buy a battery, don't do it for the economics yet.
Mm.
But what is cool about the battery is...
except maybe in South Australia it may make sense if your consumption is high enough.
Yeah, you can get a big rebate.
Yeah, with that big fat subsidy.
I mean, the interesting thing is, the other benefit of batteries is if there had been a blackout, which there wasn't at my house, I could have got through those 24 hours just on the battery without touching the grid. But that's only because the Powerwall 2 is one of the fairly rare breed of battery systems that will power, that will charge the batteries from the sun without the grid. A lot of batteries won't do that. So if that's important to you, the thought of getting through a heat wave and staying cool when all your neighbors are blacked out, make sure you get a battery that can charge its battery from the sun when the grid's down.
But if you're going to run your air conditioning off it, probably need to be a large one.
If you've got an efficient home, I should have said, if you have an efficient home, you can just squeeze through. We weren't being careful about our electricity use because we knew we had the grid. So you think 40 kilowatt hours is a lot to use over 24?
I think it's a bad day if I use 6.
Yeah, so there's an investment property down the road that my wife Airbnbs, and we have solar analytics and a 6.6 kilowatt solar system on that too.
Yeah.
No batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So that they consumed 70.5 kilowatt hours of energy over those 24 hours to keep cool.
Yeah, so the air conditioner was just going solid.
No, I'm impressed they actually switched it off. Like
Yes.
9 o'clock in the morning, they must have gone for a walk. Most Airbnbs will just leave it on 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. They're on holiday. They want to stay cool.
What they paid for.
So I guess the difference there is it's a 13-year-old air conditioner. It's a standard Australian build, so thermal envelope's shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
No insulation.
Very little insulation.
My parents put insulation in their ceilings. I pointed out to them that was a bit pointless because you pull up the rug and you can see the ground through the cracks in the floor. But they tried.
So we saved $12.21 on the bill by having solar this day. So
Yeah.
I worked out if we had a battery on here, which I was told by a certain salesman would pay for itself, no problem.
Oh, really?
We would have saved, I think I worked out about an extra $3.50.
But you still managed to export a little to the grid, even in the middle of the day.
Self-consumption here was 30 kilowatt hours out of 35 generated.
Yeah.
So we could have popped 5 kilowatt hours into a battery and used that later in the day. To be fair, if it was a fancy battery system, you could have maybe charged with off-peak electricity.
Yeah, but...
If.
If. But even without a battery, this solar home, on the hottest day ever in recorded history, it's still helping support the grid by putting out electricity into it.
Yes.
Yeah, so your neighbour without solar, if he hasn't solar, he's still getting helped out.
Yes, that's right. Right. And it halved the bill on that day. It was $12 saved from a $24 bill for energy use.
Yep.
So that was the heat wave in Adelaide. Anything else interesting happen?
I can't remember. I think I passed out during it, or slept through it. I don't know. I woke up the next day.
Was your unit cool?
It was,
Was your mansion in the Adelaide Hills cool?
You know, my wife kicked me out. She got the house. Yes, my unit was fine.
Good.
I had a nice little fan, which kept me cool. I didn't need an air conditioner to sleep like some people from the United Kingdom. Yeah.
Moving on.
Yes. Moving on.
What are these graphs that are probably quite hard to see on the video?
Well, this is a big mystery. So, Thursday, heat wave, massive electricity use in Victoria, but at the top there is Tasmania, and you can, if you have good eyes, you can see that their wholesale electricity price was negative, while the rest of the country, rest of the eastern half of the country was sweltering.
So that's interesting. So at the same time that Victoria was so desperate for electricity, it was literally load shedding.
Mm-hmm.
And the wholesale price was $14 and a bit a kilowatt hour.
Yep.
Tasmania had a negative wholesale electricity price.
A long time there it was negative or very cheap, like 1 or 2 cents.
It's insane.
Obviously, they would have been sending as much electricity to the grid as they could have, to Victoria as they could have through Basslink, which is 500 megawatts. But why the price dropped so low after they were sending all that out, I don't know.
I asked a few people on Twitter if they know, because we haven't got a clue, and they didn't know. So if anyone knows why we got a negative wholesale electricity price in Tasmania at the same time that mainland Australia was absolutely desperate for electricity, let us know. Now, what else have you got for us here? What's this graph?
This is South Australia during a heat wave on Thursday, and South Australia is using 3 gigawatts of electricity, of grid electricity, and we were also getting rooftop solar, and this is rooftop solar. We got so much power from it, it supplied 18% of the total electricity consumption in the middle of the day there.
So that peaks, if people can't read the scale, that is 18% of South Australia's electricity consumption from rooftop solar.
Yep.
During the heat wave.
That's 569 megawatts. The Northern Power Station, the coal power station, was shut down over 2.5 years ago now. That could only supply 520 megawatts.
If it was working.
If it was working, yes. Sometimes it didn't work. Most of the time it did.
Now what's this one?
Okay, this is just to show the difference between Adelaide and Perth. Normally, South Australia wins on the amount of rooftop solar as a percentage of total electricity use.
Yes.
Because we have the most per person. Oh, well, actually Queensland has just beaten us on that, I think. But they have far more electricity use in industry there. So we're still winning on this. But it was 46.6 degrees in Adelaide. In Perth it was only 25 degrees. So no need to use your air conditioner. And they ended up beating South Australia for the percentage of their electricity use met by rooftop solar.
Which is unusual.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, some criticism came in over Twitter, Ronald.
Oh no, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. Someone thinks you don't know what you're writing about. So this is I assume it's a gentleman called Dave My Face TM.
That's like Boaty McBoatface.
So almost exactly a year ago, you wrote a blog post about the diesel generators that the then Labour government had installed in case of extreme demand on the grid, generally during a heat wave. And the headline was, South Australia's new diesel generators ready to rumble, but probably won't. Now, Dave My Face TM says, great dud prediction there. Running now over 200 megawatts. Price per megawatt, $14,000. Cheap, eh? Because solar and wind space mills aren't delivering. Well, first thing to point out before we discuss this blog post is price per megawatt, $14,000. Dave My Face TM doesn't know the difference between a megawatt and a megawatt hour. Now that might sound kind of anal, but it's not. It's really important because it means a completely different thing. And in my humble opinion, if you don't know the difference between a megawatt and a megawatt hour, which means you don't know the difference between power and energy, you're not allowed to engage in energy debates on Twitter. So just yesterday or the day before on Twitter, someone replied to some comment on the heatwave. I've blurred out his name. 236 gigawatts of rooftop solar. The NEM saw 4,285 gigawatts of generation. Whoop! 236 gigawatts of solar.
Wow. Wow, the whole of Adelaide is just coated with solar panels.
So what this guy meant was 236 gigawatt hours of solar energy were generated on that day. which is a completely different meaning to there being 236 gigawatts of installed solar. So I replied to him, please don't comment unless you understand the difference between power, kilowatts, gigawatts, and energy, gigawatt hours. And this guy came back to me and said, limited characters on Twitter, deleted the W. W? I think he deleted the H. Don't comment unless you understand Twitter's limitations. So he's basically saying that because he only has a limited amount of characters, he couldn't squeeze the H's in, which he calls W's. Which is interesting because if you look at his tweet, he puts a space between the number and then the gigawatt, and then he also spells out percent as per space cent instead of the percent symbol.
You're approaching this problem like an engineer, you know. An artist would sit here and think, okay, this tweet looks much better if I compose it this way. I think that was the problem. He's just an artistic soul. You know, you can't pick on him.
Well, my opinion is adding the H in was a bit more important than having a space between the numbers and the units.
Yeah, okay, I've got to agree with you.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if you don't understand the difference between power and energy, then please don't engage in energy debates because you don't know what you're talking about, and it will take you 5 minutes to learn it.
You just knocked out almost every politician from discussing it.
There is that, and a lot of battery salesmen.
Yeah.
Now, back to the blog post that was criticised.
Yes, these diesel generators, they're now part of the RERT, the Reliability and Emergency Reserve Trading Scheme, and they will operate to prevent blackouts, basically. They get switched on when the grid is in dire need of power because coal power stations have foot the bed and aren't working.
Now, I think Dave, my face TM, I think he has a point because the headline, is a little misleading.
Yeah, did he read the article?
Well, no, he obviously didn't read the blog post because
wow.
everything you said has actually come true, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
but if you just
articles aren't for everyone.
True. If you want to criticise us, Ronald, that's great. We welcome it, but please, if you're criticising a blog post, please read it. The criticism you can level is that that headline, if it's read alone without the blog post, maybe he thinks you meant that they would never ever be switched on.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
What did you mean?
I sort of meant right then when I wrote it. I don't know. It's hard to recall what I was thinking, but they were only meant to be used basically for emergencies.
And they were used in an emergency.
Exactly.
On the 24th of January, last Thursday. It's actually, so you wrote this about a year ago.
Yep.
Oh, that's a nice picture, isn't it?
Oh yeah, true love. Can
we all just reflect on that for a moment?
Yes.
So
it's a lump of coal there, in case you're just wondering.
The fact that these diesel generators ran is being used as a big stick by people that aren't fans of renewables to say renewables are useless.
Yeah. And well, in the article I pointed out that's exactly what would happen. If they were used, it would mean renewables that are useless. If they were used, it would mean the same thing.
Well, you did predict this would happen. So I'll just read this, your fine words, Ronald. They will rarely be used. Any coal fetishists reading this are probably currently coughing and spluttering at the high fuel cost of diesel generation. Yep, that's exactly what happened. Even more than they normally do from all the coal smoke they are so fond of inhaling. But because these generators will only be used during critical periods to prevent blackouts, mostly in Victoria as it happens, they may only operate on average for a few hours a year. So the high fuel cost isn't much of an issue. This is especially true when the price of electricity during these critical periods is considered. When the grid is under stress, the wholesale price of electricity is likely to be $14 a kilowatt hour or potentially even higher. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, thank you.
You got to get something right.
Thank you. I appreciate the praise there. Yeah, it wasn't really a prediction. I was just reporting the facts. Yeah. And it all came true. On Friday, the diesel generators were sending power to Victoria to prevent worse blackouts than they already had. 200,000 people were affected by blackouts in Victoria. You know why? 40% of Victoria's coal power capacity was out of action, kaput, either undergoing amazingly poorly timed maintenance, or
Funny
just
that.
yes, funny, yes, or just broken down. 40% was out of action. So yeah, that's why I'm currently writing about why coal power is unreliable. And solar power does much better. Solar power is variable, but it doesn't mean it's unreliable. Coal power is like the friend who always turns up and says, yeah, I'll be there, I'll do that for you, I'll be there for you, mate. And then when you really need him, doesn't show up. Solar power is more like the mate who doesn't promise you the world, but if he says he'll be there, because we can predict days or even weeks in ahead just what solar power in aggregate, can't predict what one rooftop will produce, but overall we have extremely good ability to predict what solar output will be.
These thermal power stations, they struggle with a high ambient temperature.
Yeah, how much they lose in efficiency depends on, is really complex. I looked into it this morning, but depends if they're ocean cooled,
Yep.
cooled by Toowoomba sewage water, which is what the Millmerran plant partially does, and or just air cooling or gas turbines.
Yes.
But yeah, they lose efficiency and
And they become unreliable. Because they're struggling and they're pushing the limits of their engineering design, they fall over, and we're seeing that.
yeah. But how many moving parts does your solar system at home have?
Does that include the battery?
Yeah.
There's a fan in the battery.
Okay. So, but without the battery.
0.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So nothing's going to snap off. No pipes are going to burst, send hot steam everywhere.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Solar systems are pretty simple. The most complicated bit is the inverter.
Sounds pretty reliable.
They're pretty easy to swap out. Anything else you want to say about these diesel generators? You had a great quote from a Liberal South Australian politician who's now in government, but I can't find it. Here we go. Leader of the state. This is when the diesel generators were installed. Leader of the state Liberals, who were then in opposition, Vicky Chapman, said the plan to purchase the turbines was scandalous.
Yes, because first they're saying that blaming Labor for everything that goes wrong, or the blackouts their problem, but also doing something to prevent blackouts is also scandalous. It's too complex for me, obviously.
Seems like it was a pretty good idea with hindsight.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to say about
Nope.
South Australia's diesel generators?
Nothing. Read the article.
Okay, let's go through the rest of the week's blog.
Okay.
So we'll start at the bottom. It's a gas. Labour's 1 billion national hydrogen plan. Well,
I have plenty to say about that, but I wanted to go back so I
back
can,
even more.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I want to show you.
It's been a long week.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You want to talk about this one?
That's right.
Do solar panels degrade
Oh.
over time? Yes, but not by much.
Mm-hmm. So, solar panels are great things, but they do slowly degrade. They will get worse as they get older. The good news is not by much if you get a decent panel. So if you get a crap panel, yeah, it can fall apart in a few years, maybe a few months somewhat. Here we have our list of what we consider to be reliable panels. There may be other panels that are reliable out there, but we don't have enough information on them to feel confident about putting them on the list. If you get one of these, it will degrade, but it should only degrade by a modest amount, and it should stay within its product warranty. And I'm reasonably confident that the performance warranty, that the warranties for these panels actually mean something. We'll have to wait for the future to see if they are fully supported by these companies, but
Time will tell.
time will tell.
So this is a dynamic table list. If anyone watching this has strong opinions, doesn't have to be very strong, that there are brands on here that shouldn't be on there, or vice versa. Let us know, give us the evidence, and like I say, it's dynamic. So just for transparency, 2 brands that we've taken off there relatively recently are ET and GCL. I won't go into the details, but basically we lost confidence in them to produce consistently high quality panels. It's that simple. So we have a thing called the grandmother rule at SolarQuotes. If we won't recommend something to our grandmothers, we won't recommend it on the site. And these are the brands that we're happy to recommend at the moment.
Just to be clear, they're not all the same. You've got cheaper ones on one side, more expensive ones on the other. If you pay more, you will get a better panel, but we consider them all to be decent quality. Oh, yeah.
So what's this graph about, Ronald?
Right, this is how much degradation in performance these panels are warranted for after 25 years. So, at the far end, you've got BYD. They guarantee you'll still have 80% of your panel capacity left. This particular type of panel, I'll point out, after 25 years. That's what their performance warranty says.
And funnily enough, they're one of the cheaper panels.
Yeah. And if you pay a little
Over
more
to the right.
a
lot more. Sorry.
If you pay a little more for a Q-cell or a Longy, you get a nice little improvement there on the performance warranty, how much it will still have after 25 years. I wouldn't worry too much about, 3 or 4%. Wouldn't lose sleep over it, but definitely all else equal, it's good to have.
And if you pay a lot more for SunPower?
SunPower, they've recently increased their performance warranty for their X and their E series panels to 92% after 25 years. So they're really confident that the large bulk of their panels still going to be going strong after a quarter of a century. And, I'm pretty sure these will still be going strong after 40 years. I also expect great things from LG as well. So.
Now, you've been misleading the public again drawing that graph, haven't you?
Yeah, I
as a commenter pointed.
I screwed up. Yeah, I put the figures into Excel, it spat out the graph, I stuck it in. I didn't really think about it, but the graph didn't start at 0, so that's misleading to the human eye.
The differences are exaggerated.
Yeah, it exaggerates the differences. So.
Yes.
So
fair cop, Mr. Commenter.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say about solar panel degradation?
Well, we've got a nice example in Japan. Kyocera, they put their panels on their roof, and in 1981, I believe, after 31 years, 13% decline in output. So they have a reputation for quality, but clearly panels can go the distance. Even panels that were produced, 40 years ago nearly now.
Kyocera have a great reputation for quality. Unfortunately, they're very hard to get hold of in Australia. The boaties really like them because apparently they're very good at resisting salt. Yeah. Solar panels last, and they should last for decades if you buy good ones.
Yes. Just avoid the trash and you should be good. Fine.
Okay. What else has been going on? That seemed like a long time ago, that blog post.
Yes, we had the public holiday and everything, so.
We did.
That's why.
We did. I've been an Australian citizen for 11 years, I think, yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I hope one day you'll be eligible to sit in Parliament.
No, thanks.
My father can't, my sister can't. I probably could, but when you're as good looking as me, it opens doors, But I'm not saying it's fair, just a fact.
Okay, here's one of Michael's. New South Wales electric and hybrid vehicle plan unveiled. Anything to say about electric cars and...
Okay, electric cars, they're going to be the future. I'm certain of that. It's good that they're doing something, but Australia as a whole needs to do something, not just little efforts by states. Australia is probably one of the few developed countries which doesn't have any fuel efficiency standards whatsoever, apart from a sticker they put on the windscreen of new cars, given the fuel economy. That's it. That's all we've got. The rest is up to the purchasers. So we need fuel efficiency standards, which will encourage more economical internal combustion cars, hybrid cars and electric cars. And I hope we'll soon be shot of the internal combustion engine cars, because bad for the environment, bad for your lungs and health, bad for your pocketbook when you're paying for all that expensive petroleum products. So yeah, it's the future.
I think I think ICE cars will disappear faster than almost anyone has predicted.
Yeah, they will still be very slow to build up in Australia, but then they will take off after 2 more years. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
My next car will be electric.
Mm-hmm.
What about yours?
I hope I can afford a car in the future, but yeah, it's if I get a car and I don't just decide to stick to my horses, definitely electric.
Cool. Next, Townsville City Council approval for Bluewater solar farm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100 megawatts of solar, I believe, on single axis tracking, so it will follow the sun for the day. That's pretty much now normal for Australian solar farms, to have them follow the sun. The answer is why is obvious. Solar power reduces the cost of electricity during the middle of the day, because the solar on your roof produces the most at around noon. So it's worth more early in the morning and late in the afternoon. So if you can tilt those panels to keep their output high, you get a better return.
So they're generally tilting them east and west to maximize early and late solar power.
Yep.
Makes sense. Makes sense. More solar power for Google. Well, Google are smart. They understand that it's the cheapest form of energy.
If you have a data center, you put panels on your roof, not only are you getting electricity, but you're also helping keep the place cool, because that's where most of our electricity consumption is, keeping your servers air conditioned.
Although I think that's a power purchase agreement, so I don't think the panels are actually on this data.
No,
well, maybe they are.
They do have, I've seen pictures of data centers with panels on the roof. Still makes sense. What I said makes sense, even if it had nothing to do with the article.
Of course, of course.
Yep, of course.
Okay, let's talk about one of our favorites, the SA Home Battery Scheme grant update. So what we're talking about here is some numbers on the uptake.
So how many hundreds or thousands of units have been sold so far?
So 40,000 rebates up for
already?
grabs. Whoa.
Whoa, okay.
They've sold 100 in, 12 weeks or something?
What? Sorry?
100
What? 100
out of 40,000.
out of 40,000? Oh, that's embarrassing.
And they've put an enormous, I don't know how much, maybe they have to tell us if we ask, but there's a lot of advertising in SA from the government encouraging people to take up this rebate. They must be spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising. And so far they've sold 100 batteries, according to Dan Van Holst Pelican.
Yep.
They have had 600 rebates approved, but what they don't tell you in the mainstream media is that a rebate being approved does not mean that person is going on to buy a battery. It means they've been sold on locking in the rebate, but there's no obligation to actually turn that into a battery purchase. So
yeah, and they've sold 100 out of 40,000. These rebates aren't going to disappear or run out anytime soon.
No, get in quick! Yeah. Rebates going! I've seen some of those adverts as well from less reputable companies. So, anything else to say about the home battery scheme?
Do your thumbs before you get one. Unless you just want a battery for entertainment purposes, be careful, do the maths, work out if you're actually going to save money. You can save money with a battery in South Australia, nowhere else at the moment, but your electricity consumption has to be high enough.
It has to be high, it has to be pretty high overnight. So don't look at one exceptional day like the heat wave and extrapolate that to 365 days. Look at what your typical savings from a battery is going to be. For me, just as an example, fairly efficient house, I'm saving about 90 cents a day from my battery, which I only paid $3,900, not because I'm special, because I'm part of the AGG Virtual Power Plant Pilot Scheme.
AGL.
Did I say AGG?
Yeah.
AGL. And interestingly, according to my Tesla app, which monitors it, they have never once used the battery as part of their scheme.
Not even during the heat wave?
Not even during the heat wave.
I think
So-
it must be a control or something.
No idea.
That's strange.
Don't know what's going on there.
Mm.
So there's an interesting comment on this blog post actually from Mark Moody, who's a good local installer, SolarWorks. Hello, Mark, client of SolarQuotes. He reckons that out of this list here, his favourite is the Iguana, a battery of which we know very little about, and a battery who refused to tell us how much it costs when we asked them. So, look, yeah, they're funny, these manufacturers that refuse to tell us the estimated retail price of their batteries. They try and keep it a secret. I don't know how that works. We will find out, because we'll just ask someone like Mark. But before we do find out, we just won't talk much about your battery because
we don't have the information
cost
people
is
want.
cost is.
Yeah.
If it's this expensive, no one's interested. If it's this expensive, But anyway, Mark says functionality-wise, it's good. It does everything you want it to do. It charges from the sun when the grid's down, 5 kilowatts of power, which same as the Powerwall 2. And he says it's a really good battery. The only thing missing is I have no idea how much it costs, but we'll find out.
And if it's like a real iguana, it's very hard to kill. So that'd be great.
That'd be good. Yeah. Anything else about the South Australian home battery scheme?
Well, the BYD battery we mentioned last time, it's available, but all I've seen on offer is 4 of these 13.8 kilowatt hour batteries stuck together.
Oh, so that's the official South Australian government battery website.
Oh, sorry.
So the only according to that, the only system you can get the BYD in is if you buy 4 of them together.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just a mistake because it's just early days and they haven't got everything straight yet. But it's very odd because I was going to look into this battery, let people know about it. But if you can't buy them one at a time, which is what people are going to want, not much point.
I think let's assume the South Australian government website is wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure someone will sell you them individually.
Yeah, that's probably right.
And the other thing is we got the price. We were given the wrong price in the first episode of this vodcast. It was, how much was it, Jono?
It was about 7,800, but it turns out it's actually close to 9,600 for the BYD Pro 13.8.
BYD Pro 13.8, approximate retail price is closer to 9,000.
9,600.
9,600. So 3,600 after your South Australian rebate, but then you've got to buy a battery inverter and you've got to get it installed. So let's see what I think you'd probably get it installed as a retrofit for 6,000-7,000 maybe, which would be about $500 a kilowatt hour installed in South Australia, maybe. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go on to the next blog post, which I believe was... Now, this got a crap load of comments.
Yes, I thought I should give people a chance to pick on me for a bit.
Labour's hydrogen plan is a lead Zeppelin. Now, you were not impressed with Labour promising to invest research money into hydrogen.
No, because they've got $1 billion plan to invest in hydrogen, actually only putting up $3 million of taxpayers' money. The rest will be loans, so they're not giving $1 billion away for hydrogen research. I don't, in my opinion, after doing the maths, I don't see Australia importing large quantities of hydrogen overseas. I just don't see how there will be a huge market for it. Maybe hydrogen will be used in the future for, who knows, aviation, shipping. It is used for industrial purposes at the moment, but the massive quantities some people are predicting where hydrogen will be used for both road transport, cars and trucks, and electricity generation, that I can't see how that will make sense.
I can't see it ever being... Hydrogen cars, I can't see them taking off. Ever.
No.
I mean, it's just...
Only if a really bad accident.
Yeah, I totally agree with Elon Musk on that one. I think maybe aviation, maybe shipping.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Hopefully steel manufacture. It can replace coal.
I think there are better ways to do it.
Okay.
Because I've looked at well, I won't go into it, but yeah, I'm very confident we've got better ways of reducing steel, because you have to remember we're now into, we've passed peak steel. So we're going to be using a lot of scrap steel,
Okay.
and you can use electricity
So you don't need
plus
coking coal.
scrap plus some iron ore. So it's a lot. You don't need so much reducing gas, which is what the coal was used for, to reduce it. And anyway, like I said, I won't go into it because I keep throwing in confusing words like reducing.
But if it has niche uses, so maybe shipping, aviation, shouldn't Labour
Yeah.
be putting a few million into the research?
Well, no, because there's several reasons why. Japan is already putting billions of dollars of research into it, and South Korea's putting some in. So I don't see. Maybe we should be concentrating on on something like getting rid of those coal power stations. That's probably going to be more help than investing in hydrogen at the moment. There's not going to be a huge amount of money, even if we do end up exporting large quantities of hydrogen, because there are other countries, they've got plenty of sunshine, plenty of sand, not much else. They've got seawater, they can produce hydrogen and they can ship it. So we'll be competing with them. There's no extraordinary profits to be made. We could make money doing it, but it's not going to be special compared to anything else we could be doing. So there's no point spending a huge amount of money on something we may have no advantage in, and which at the moment may not have any huge environmental advantage compared to other things we could be pumping money into.
Fair enough. So, what are you writing about this week?
I'm going to write I've got an article that's almost ready about how coal is unreliable, 40% of Victorian coal capacity out of action in the heat wave, solar soldiering on, providing power in that time. Yes, after that, I'm not sure what I'll write about. I've got a few ideas. Maybe I'll write about how cheap renewable energy in general is compared to the cost of coal, because not only are new coal power stations very expensive and extremely difficult to finance, there's been talk about China possibly being willing to finance coal power stations in Australia, but that's only because only China really has the expertise nowadays to build modern coal power stations. So clearly they have their finger in that pie. But at the moment, renewables are starting to beat black coal, not just on the cost of new power stations, but on the marginal cost, because once you pay for the cost of coal, pay for your operations and maintenance at your coal power plant, the costs are around the same.
What about firmed renewables? So renewables that are dispatchable.
Right. Well, that's going to be at the moment. That's going to mostly gas and hydro in Australia. Coal is fairly inflexible. Technically, you can build a new coal power plant, so it's more flexible, but you don't do that because of the cost. You want your coal power plant to be running at a high capacity most of the time, because they're so expensive to build.
Yeah, the free market will never build another coal plant in Australia ever again.
Yeah.
The only way it will get built is if the government forces it.
Yeah, and they're not going to do that because, they don't have the power at the moment.
I will be writing, I plan to publish 2 blog posts this week.
Yeah. Oh, can I take the week off?
No.
Oh.
The first one will be about just going through the numbers on the heat wave and the solar on my home and the Airbnb property. And the second one, I have to choose my words very carefully on this one.
Oh, is it rude?
Because it's about SolarEdge threatening to sue a really great solar installer called Mark Kavanagh.
Right.
For criticising SolarEdge products.
Well, all I have to say about that is
be careful what you say.
and then beep, when beep beep.
So once the lawyers checked every word, and I build up the courage,
Right.
I will publish that post.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not the kind of thing we want to see in the Australian solar industry. People
definitely not.
being, can you tell I'm thinking very carefully about what I say?
Not at all. You come across very naturally.
Good.
He's not coming across naturally.
Anyway, it's probably not the kind of thing I want to talk about off the hip, shoot from the hip.
Yes.
But that I plan to publish that blog post to help support Mark, as I would be happy to help support any solar installer in a similar situation, trying to do the right thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that will be interesting.
Good work. And I hope Solar Edge resolves everything in a pleasant manner.
So do I.
Fingers
Now,
crossed.
before we go, we got the critics came in from the first episode.
There were critics?
The overwhelming criticism was that the sound was shit.
Yeah.
So we've got new microphones. I hope they worked. The other one was Glenn Morris. Thank you very much. Recommended we have a laptop in front of us that mirrors the screen.
Yes.
Don't know why we didn't think of that. So I hope that worked better. And finally, we got some fashion criticism from your mother.
Yes, we
I can't
did.
believe she watched it.
Well, it was by sheer chance. She said to me, I was on the internet the other day and then this thing came up. I think, oh my God, what site are you going to now, Mum? And she said, it was you and Finn and you were talking about solar, but the sound was terrible. So I turned it up and I still couldn't understand it.
And what did you say about our dress sense?
She said, I was dressed very well, better than Finn.
I'm humiliated.
Oh, don't be humiliated. You're competing with me. Come on. You know, look at this. I'm like, in Toowoomba's top 200 of fashion sense. What hope do you have, really?
So that was, thank you. Keep the criticism coming. It helps us make this thing better. And one more thing, we have about 50 calendars left that I get printed every year. Let's see if my microphone lets me go.
No, you bet. Oh,
So if you want one of these, SolarQuotes calendar, installs from our clients, one for every month, plus another one. Go to solarquotes.com.au/calendar, and the first 50 people, if we get that many, we'll send you out a free calendar if you want one. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.